Let's have a serious conversation about that, shall we? Because here's my thoughts on James Wan possibly return to the DC universe. I am a massive fan of James Wan. Big fan of James Wan. Again, like I think the dude is like he does horror better than anyone currently right now, in my opinion. I still think the first Saw film is a masterpiece in itself. I really loved what he did with the first Aquaman movie. But when he was part of the DC EU, he was part of this weird concept that Warner Brothers was doing where it's like, hey, we're gonna let these big directors come in and they can direct these movies however they want. They don't need to be a part of any type of connective tissue. And you kind of saw that with the first Aquaman, where it really didn't connect to stuff that we seen in the previous DCEU, other than them mentioning Steppenwolf and Justice League and stuff like that. It just felt like it was some of that stuff was out of place, especially stuff with Mira and how they went and they kind of changed some of Aquaman's backstory. Would I be accepting if James look, the dude's a phenomenal director. There's no ifs or buts about it. But we were like, it was just one of those weird things. You guys remember like 6, 7 years ago, like on this channel, I talked about this stuff where it's like, oh, they're bringing this director in to do a trench movie, and oh, we're gonna do a JJ Abrams gonna do like a weird Superman movie that has nothing to do with what's going on in DCEU. Each director that they brought in had their own take on what they wanted to do. If James Wan can come in, sit down with James Gunn, and have a serious discussion, okay, this is what we need to do, then yeah, I'm fine with that. I personally, for an example, here's an example. James Wan probably would have been a great pick to do that Clayface movie. It's a low budget horror film. Problem is, James Wan's a big name. Don't know if he's really interested in doing something like that. Plus, with James Wan, you're going to pay a hefty price to get him to direct the film. So they went with a different way with the Clayface movie. And I believe the Clayface movie is only going to be like a $50 million movie, which is a very low budget film. So that said, too, you got to take into account those sort of things. Look, James Wan is a very incredibly talented director. I enjoyed most of his movies. Still not seen Aquaman 2, mostly because what's the point? Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Doesn't lead into anything. People can sit there and go, oh, well, you can still watch a movie. Doesn't need to be connected. Sure, but if I'm going to invest 2 hours, 2.5 hours of my time on these movies, then I want some kind of payoff for them. Like the MCU has conditioned us to want to have payoffs for these movies. I don't know necessarily if we can go back to one-off superhero movies. Maybe we can. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think for the majority, we wanted to know that our time invested in these films are going to pay off. So again, James Wan, would I be okay with him coming to the DCU and do that version of Aquaman? Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Great director. If he can come to some kind of agreement with James Gunn, I would be open for the idea. But it can't be one of these things where Walter Hamada just lets these people come in and the inmates are running the asylum. That's not going to work. We've seen that over in Star Wars with Lucasfilm, where Kathleen Kennedy is just hiring the popular director of the month, and they come in and then 6 months down the line, oh, the project never took off because of creative differences. How many directors has Kathleen Kennedy went through right now? Like it's like I can't even count on both hands how many directors she's been through. DCEU had a similar problem. I like the fact that James Gunn, and I said this years ago, Warner Brothers, the difference between the WB and the MCU is the MCU is its own studio. They are owned by Disney, but Marvel is its own studio, where DC is being run by Warner Brothers. They don't have a studio. They changed that. James Gunn and his partner are co-CEOs, and they are running DC Studio. So now all the creative thing that's going on in DC is going through that studios. And I don't want to see him do Aquaman though. Been there, done that. Let's do a more accurate version of Aquaman. get him to direct something else. Something, like I said, Clayface would have been great. They went a different route, but let's see James Wan do something else in the DC universe if he decides to come back at all. Just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think, though. Leave your comments in the comment box below.